I need to see that beautiful bald head.
You already got one, baby.
I can get it fucking figured out here. Why is my camera not connecting? I just set all this shit up.
Well, it's definitely Brian McWilliams.
Yeah.
I can tell by the voice.
How's it going? How is it going? Let me get this music turned down a little bit. It's background music. Bring that on down.
This is a moment I never anticipated when I failed in my move to Nevada in 2015.
Yes.
No, 17.
How do you fail to move to Nevada? Isn't that where people just naturally end up at the lowest part of their life?
Well, I tried to move there.
You gotta really fuck up to fail to move to Nevada.
Well,
I drove across the country. We had 3 dogs and 3 people in a Motel 6 room trying to find housing. It's like everyone had a job, and then the next available apartment was like 2 months out. It's like, we can't spend $400 a week on a hotel room.
Just at like the height of the Vegas boom when like everybody was going there. It was the fastest growing city in America. Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to my friend. He's like, we can totally get stuff out there. It's booming. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Totally. Not thinking like, oh yeah, but then other people know it's a boom. So fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you, man. I think you lucked out because my wife got offered to move to Vegas, or we got offered to like basically run an office for like a pretty big company, high salary, and you could get housing for like dirt cheap out there. But I told her I didn't want to live there. Number one, we have dogs. We have a kid now. Like, what am I not going to walk the dogs 8 months of the year when it's 1,000,000 degrees outside? And also, think about this. Do you want to live somewhere where everyone goes to be the worst version of themselves?
Right? I mean, like, I'm not a trad
think about it.
I'm a pretty gross libertarian, all right? Like, when it comes to like talking to these trad cons, they love me when I'm talking about the state. But the moment I'm like, oh no, like I'll like, we start talking trans people, I like start talking about the groomers, like I show them the real shit, I show them the philosophy, break it all down, and then I'm like, but this trans girl here, oh yeah, I will throat her. And all of a sudden people are like, yo! They're like, who is this guy, this creep? Not a trad con, but even I would be like, Vegas though? Like, that's gotta be dirty.
I mean, like, I'm a party guy. I like to get drunk and do horrible things to horrible people. And, do you want me as your neighbor in Vegas? No, of course not. It's just asking for trouble. So I think you lucked out. I think you dodged a big bullet there by not getting that apartment.
I want to start off by a really funny anecdote, right? So I don't know if you really know much about what we're doing, but, anarcho-capitalists, we were like, where the hell do we go? What's not saturated? Where are they not? And I said, Twitch politics. It's a den of lefties, and I fucking love debates. I do debates all the time. And I was like, you know what? Let's go there. And we don't have to worry about the algorithm. We just got to worry about, can we put our names in front of faces, right? And so we were like, fuck it, we're going to do it. And about, maybe 4 or 5 months in, I saw one of your episodes, and it was titled, before I even saw it, Fabian Libertarianism. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
And I was like, how the fuck does Brian McWilliams know who we are? I was like, we are nobodies. Like, how is this possible? We were a little baby channel at the time. I mean, it was still a baby channel, but like in terms of Twitch politics, like everybody knows me.
Not after my appearance, baby.
Right? Yeah, of course. So I see that, and I was like,
the McWilliams boost.
We had no idea that was a term. We literally came up with Fabian Liberty based off of the Fabian Society, right? Like we were like incremental socialism. We believe in incrementalism as a means of convincing people of libertarianism, opening things up slowly to the market. So makes sense. Fabian Liberty. Plus we can do like a sheep logo. We can make fun of people for being sheeps. It'll be great branding, right? That was what we chose. And we saw it and we were like, he knows us. And I'm watching it and I was like, I've never heard of Fabian libertarianism and I've never been so disappointed in my entire life. And I thought, but you know what? We kept up the grind and now you're here and you do know us now. So welcome.
I do. Yes.
So why don't you, before we get into it, like, because everyone should know Brian McWilliams, everyone should know Lions of Liberty, but my audience on Twitch is a live audience. It's not always libertarians. A lot of paleo libs here, a lot of conservatives, a lot of objectivists, weirdly enough, because we talk a lot of philosophy and they love it when people talk philosophy. So why don't you introduce yourself? You have like 20 projects you're working on. So like, just give us the whole spiel. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh, sure. Brian McWilliams, Lions of Liberty, one of the 3 founders of the podcast. It used to be a website way back in the day, back in the first Ron Paul run. We used to just do text post on websites, and then start up the podcast with Mark. I do a show now called Mean Age Daydream. And it's funny, you're talking about trying to get different people, different approaches in here, right? It's awesome you guys have more than just hardcore libertarians, because that's what I'm trying to do with the new show and the rebrand, is to reach a broader audience, right? You just not get, libertarian autists in here. So, yeah, Mean Age Daydream is my main show. That's primarily a show about libertarian politics, free markets, but also trying to bring in more culture, comedy. I do a lot of work with comedy. I used to do stand-up. I'm getting back into that. I've got, on the comedy side, I've got my Do Nothing Man Superhero. It's kind of a comedic radio drama. Fun times there. I've got another side podcast called The Boring, BOHRING podcast, which is pure comedy. And otherwise, just living the dream, writing screenplays that nobody's buying, doing public relations for a living.
I have a question.
And,
all right, so
getting hammered.
We got to start with a hardball question, right? Do you think
Please.
libertarians are so into the comedy scene because A, we're crazy and on the fringes, or B, because libertarian philosophy is Jewish and they got to link up in some ways?
I think that libertarian philosophy is definitively Jewish. I mean, we look at where it's coming out. Who's spurting it? You got all these Jews out there leading the way. And as we know, Jews run Hollywood and the banks. So we should have far more allies than we do. So somebody's fucking up. Somebody's not sucking enough circumcised cock out there, is what I'm saying.
Right?
But,
like, where is my Sheath Underwear brand? Like, how do I get Sheath Underwear to sponsor me? All right. When can I start pimping collagen? Like, what's going on?
I asked the same question about the Sheath Underwear, but I can't believe. Hey, have you guys ever tried the Sheath Underwear or like a similar brand?
Not really, actually.
I've got MeUndies.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I've got one pair of MeUndies.
That's what I have. I have one pair my wife got me, and I was like, "These are terrible. I don't like." I mean, it feels like
we do not support or disavow any. We do not support or disavow any corporate items that may or may not sponsor us.
Sell out immediately, and sell out urgently. That's what
I'm saying, right?
No, it feels like there's like a little person choking your cock all the time in your pants. It's awful. Maybe it's just because I'm a large cocked man. What can I say? But no, man, I think. It's funny, like, you talk about comedy, libertarianism is, basically all comedy is libertarian, right? Because libertarianism is emphasis on the individual, emphasis on talent, emphasis on creative thinking, coming up with, I guess you could call a comedy a solution to a problem, right? Because every comedy starts with a premise, and that premise is typically a problem that has to be overcome in an odd way, or an anecdote that has to be overcome. And the more creative, the more bizarre that solution to the project or to that problem is, the better the joke, the better the comedy. Because if you can see comedy coming, what's the fucking point? Like every joke on the Daily Show, what's the point of watching this shit? So libertarianism is comedy, and when you're doing comedy, you want the funniest jokes to succeed, and that's what typically does. And it used to be that at stand-up comedy, the funniest people were the ones that were successful. And it didn't matter how awful your jokes were, it didn't matter how cruel they were. If people laughed, they laughed. And that's libertarianism, is looking at something not from a political bent, but looking at something from an honest perspective of what works, and the free market is laughter.
Well, I think too, the special thing about comedy is that it's probably the most meritocratic system you can have, because even when like some corporation or company tries to prop up a comedian, if they haven't done years in the trenches, it's obvious. Right. You can try and pop up somebody as much as you want on like a late night show, or thanks for the sub. Oh, it's fucking you. Your sub finally coming through.
Well, explain Hannah Gadsby.
Well, I mean, yes, but I mean, but point. Like they don't succeed, right? Like they have these little flames that they try and prop up for a period of time, and then they go away because they can't cut it. And any of the great comics that you've seen, you're like, what did you do? And they're like, yeah, I did stand-up clubs for like 11 years before I hit my big thing.
Right.
So I think that might.
But Hannah Gadsby
and free speech, right?
Look, Hannah Gadsby also, and she definitely was propped up by the left, her whole bullshit comedy, non-comedy thing. But I would say she was popular for a hot minute when they really pushed her, but she's fallen out of the cultural lexicon so quickly. Like, she has, I think, some new special, but nobody gives a fuck, and nobody will continue to give a fuck. Yeah, but exactly right. Right. The first one, they really pushed it, and also the first one, I think, was it on Netflix? Right.
Yeah.
So you're seeing right now, and I'm actually on my PR side, I work with a company that does like video analytics, right? So they're tracking all this shit in real time. But you're seeing Netflix, when that special came out, had basically a monopoly on the marketplace, right? Because this is what, 8 years ago, 10 years
Has it
ago.
been that long?
It's been, I mean, I might be talking about my ass, but I think it was about 8 years ago. I think when her special came out, I was still actively doing stand-up comedy, and it really pissed me off. So,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was outrageous. So Netflix had a monopoly in the marketplace at that time, and now you're looking at Netflix they still have the biggest platform for comedy, but you see what they just did. You see who they're putting up: Gervais, Chappelle, Norm Macdonald. You're seeing them put forth the comedians that people actually like and actually support now, and they just told all their staff in that letter to go fuck off.
Yeah, I mean,
All the
basically,
people, all the trans activists, yeah, they were like, fuck off. You don't like it, get out of here. We're sick of you. In the meantime, you have the democratization of all these other video platformers that are coming up that are ad-based, fast channels that are basically ad-based revenue instead of subscription. And Netflix shitting their pants because people don't want to pay for it, especially with the recession coming up.
I think you bring up a really good point, because it was oh my God, Amy Schumer was the reason. So before Amy Schumer existed, had her Netflix special, right? This was when Netflix had a monopoly. I don't know if any of you guys, I got a lot of Gen Z people in here because they're, where I'm on Twitch. So my audience tends to lean a little bit younger, but regardless.
Good. That's good, man. That's it. I'm going to come in on Twitch and you guys are going to be so pissed off.
No, I'd love, dude, like people, see, here's the thing about Twitch, right? Twitch is toxic as fuck in the Twitch politics.
Good. So am I.
And the reason it's toxic as fuck is because everyone is in competition with each other, presumably. And so they do clout chasing, they do drama, they get on Twitter, they try and start shit, then they try and hash it out starting shit, and they're trying to get those juicy clicks. I call them cancel clicks, because it's not really cancel culture. They're just trying to talk shit on someone else to get the clicks, right? And the problem is that they think they're in competition with everybody, and I'm not in competition with them. Who I'm in competition with is I'm
heart
trying to pull people
disease
into the world.
and erectile dysfunction.
Of course. So that's fucked up, man. But no, I'm trying to bring people from outside into the Twitch space, right? And so my community is kind of insular. So I love it. Bring more libertarians in space. It's good for both of us.
I honestly, I think when you invited me on, I didn't realize you were on Twitch. And then when you told me that, I was like, oh, that's fucking amazing. Like, I think this is a brilliant idea. And I think that you're definitely on the right track and going after a space, like you said, that's not just completely saturated, and making it fun. Like I could tell this this is the first time I'm really talking to you guys, but I can tell like you got a good vibe, good sense of humor, natural, not just like kind of bullshit. So
we've been doing it for a year, right? So I've had time to get less awkward. But anyways, I want to circle back, right? Amy Schumer, you make a really solid argument, because when Amy Schumer, back when Netflix had a monopoly, before Amazon Prime, before Disney Plus, nobody really watched Hulu unless it was to catch up on shows that they had missed, right? And so there was no comedy specials, and HBO was kind of like dying in its ability to get people to watch comedy shows, because people were cutting the cord, and when they cut the cord, they cut HBO with it. And so what happened was she put out the special and she got review bombed because it was horrible. It was just tasteless fucking dick jokes and vagina shit. And it's like, if I say shit mean enough and like gross enough, people will find it funny. But it's like, comedy is about subversion of expectations, and once they expect you to be gross, you're just being gross. Like, it's not funny anymore. And so they got rid of the rating, the 5-star rating system, because of her special at like this really low thing. And then they got rid of they got rid of the percentages from like and dislike, so you could see what the percentile was of like to dislike. And now I can't tell whether or not a show is like liked by the majority of the Netflix audience or not liked. It's just an algorithm based off of what I watch, and I like to watch Netflix shit when I go to sleep, so I put on stupid shit all the time. So the shit that they give me is like dumb shit, campy shit no one wants to see. And they fucked up their own
breaking
platform.
the algorithm. Yeah, and
right.
now you're breaking the algorithm, because half the algorithms is people watching terrible things they don't really watch.
Right, because it's like I put something on to go to bed. You know what I mean? Like I put on, like, I've watched iZombie like 10 times. I am not interested in this show. Not really. Like, it's just something to go to sleep to.
I have the same problem. I literally like could not sleep. My wife and I got into a habit, and I've been doing this even since before I met my wife. Futurama was always on Comedy Central or something every night at the same time, and I'd always have it on. I'd always fall asleep to it.
Like 5 hours, because it's all they had.
A block. Yeah, exactly. So it was like a block. I fall asleep to it all the time. And then it was on Netflix. They lost it. And for a while it was gone. And I swear to God, I could not sleep because I'm so used to that lulling to sleep of the Futurama. But that's off topic. But to your point, yeah, they got rid of it's laying bare how perverse the system's become and how they fought against meritocracy as much as they could. Right.
Yeah.
You see it in search results. You see it in Twitter, everything they're doing in social media. You're seeing it in comedy. You're seeing it in culture. When these fuckers try to fight against meritocracy, it always loses because people want what's actually good to succeed. In their heart of hearts, they might make up shit otherwise, but they want the best stuff to succeed. And if they keep pushing this, nonsense through, all they're doing is damaging their own brand and fucking things up. And I'll tell you, so looking at the overall movie industry, film industry right now, you're seeing the absence of meritocracy, right? And like I said, I do screenwriting and unsuccessfully because unfortunately it's very difficult to even get any traction right now. And James Patterson got in trouble for this, the author, right? Because if you're a white male of a certain age, you ain't getting read, period. Because they're only looking for lesbian Eskimos that have one leg and or peg-legged black guys. So you can't get in, and they don't want to read your shit because they're trying to. Everything's like diversity.
Right.
But what's happening, and you're seeing it play out in what's coming out.
Well, you're seeing it with
TV.
the Daily Wire, right? Like as much as I'm not a big fan of like a lot of the shit that the Daily Wire does, right? Because I'm a fucking social degenerate anarchist, right? I might be more economically right wing than they could ever hope to be, and more libertarian than the constitutional conservatives could ever hope to be. But regardless, I do enjoy somebody finally having the means in the culture war to have enough money to be able to like legitimately challenge the monopolistic stranglehold that Hollywood has. Because that first movie they did, Run, Hide, Fight, was a fucking great movie. That second,
I haven't seen it. It was actually good.
It's actually really good. And the second movie they did, little bit Christian propaganda-y at the end, all right? It gets a little cringe for the people that are atheists that are like, it was like, Jesus saved her from the meth, It gets a little fucking dumb. But the production and the story writing is really, really good. And I'm honestly legitimately excited for Gina Carano's role in that kind of like that Western prairie film West that they're doing. Because it's somebody else doing something that isn't a bullshit low budget fucking film festival movie.
I'm telling you, man, what's going to happen? And this again, having full faith in the free market, full faith in meritocracy winning out, despite what these people might want. You're going to see a correction happen very soon and very quickly. Because right now, Hollywood, the shit they're putting out, people aren't going to see. Maverick was great. I don't know if you saw that. It was fucking great. I'll say it was 100% propaganda for the government. I don't give a fuck. It was awesome. I will happily admit I enjoyed it. But you're going to see it because, you might have heard me talk about this in the podcast before, but when you have culture right now in Hollywood, which is saying we're only going to accept screenplays from minorities or, quote unquote, underrepresented voices. All right, you're cutting your population of writers by 4/5, right? So you get 20% of the population now left writing. Of those, you're not going to, let's say you take out the men, you take out the women, you try to bisect it and trisect it. You're going to get a segment of the capable writing population that's about 5%, right? And you're telling me that all the shows coming out from this 5% are going to be good? Of course not. They're going to be terrible, and 1 or 2 will be good, and that's what you're seeing. And the reaction to that, because look, I don't care how much money you think you have. If you're Viacom, if you're whoever, I don't care how much money you think you have. When the reality comes around and kicks you in the dick that people don't want your shit, and you're seeing that with Netflix right now,
right? You're
going to change. And you saw it with Netflix, and you're going to see with all these Hollywood studios, man.
The problem that I have, and maybe I'm black-pilled because of the black flag, right? But the problem that I have that scares me is when you have Vanguard and BlackRock instituting environmental social governance policy as a means of the market, the middle managed 401k market financially supporting companies that are, like, you could call it woke. I would call it neo-Marxian. Neo-Marxian philosophy in the workplace and requiring rainbow capitalism from corporations in order to get low interest loans from banks, in order to get additional business opportunities, in order to have access to the largest hedge funds, with the exclusion of like Kathy at ARK, you know what I mean? But like these big these huge institutions managing a majority of the savings accounts and 401ks and everything of America, I worry that meritocracy actually has the means to exist in that place because of the increasing stranglehold that the cathedral of media, the state, banking institutions, the large wealthy class, the World Economic Forum types have a stranglehold on our economy to actually bring that meritocracy. I hope that the meritocracy and the free market is strong enough, and that a somewhat free market is still more efficacious, stronger than these kind of systems and walls that they're putting in place. But we can't deny that those walls are going up, and that we might not see the results we hope for. I don't know. I mean, how do
What
you
I
feel
really
about
want what I really want to know is which will crash harder, Hollywood or the USD?
right?
Well, it's probably the USD, because Hollywood's been propped up forever by China, but Maverick pissed them off by changing the flag to the Taiwanese flag. So maybe Hollywood's saying fuck China, which again, but that's also pressure from the U.S. government. But okay, so to your what you're talking about with ESG, yeah, that is terrifying. I agree in every way, but I still come back. See, I'm white-pilled on all this because for me, when I look at how far things have been pushed, and like talking about the pressures to have all of these check marks, for green climate initiatives and green shit and rainbow, kowtowing and changing your corporate shit. Oh, they're pushing that. One thing that is very clear, number one, is that they're only doing it in the United States. Right? These are international companies. These are massive conglomerates, but you only see these people changing their branding, their logos, their emphasis, their messaging in the United States. So that's point one. So they can't have that much influence if they're not doing it in all these other nations. And still, at the end of the day, making money is number one. So if people say, number one, we think that we're being sold a false bill of goods because we can see through this bullshit and we're being patronized here. Right. And it's not actually accomplishing anything, they're going to reject it outright. And people have a very potent bullshit detector when it comes to, I will say, corporate messaging. When it comes to government messaging, like we saw with COVID, not so good. But with corporate messaging, they've got a good bullshit detector, and people are naturally skeptical of corporations. So when corporations are going to adopt all this LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, climate bullshit, people roll their eyes and they're actually skeptical. But the other thing is the meritocracy aspect of it, right? As much as BlackRock and Vanguard want to get in and pressure this way to go one way or the other way, I still have to believe, right, as through history, when you have massive corporations trying to make an influence in one way or the other way, you still have so much opportunity for people like the Elon Musks of the world to come in and tell them to go and fuck themselves.
Right.
Elon Musk is the wealthiest man, he alternates, the wealthiest man in the world, and he has told people to fuck themselves over and over again. He has not played he's played the game and getting tax breaks in California to build a plant. But point being, there's always going to be opportunity, and these people, they have levers of power, but you can't expect them to simply roll over people and be able to manipulate things this blatantly. I think that they've overplayed their hands. Just like with everything in Hollywood, you overplay it to the point where the culture will reject it based on principle. Even if they agree with it, if you push something so far, like the drag queen issue, right? Your everyday person is now like, this is fucking nuts. And we're over. I mean, like, I think to see more of that.
I think we saw that in two things give me hope, right? So I'll give you the micro one, and then I'll give you the macro one. The micro one for me that gives me hope is Loudoun County, Virginia. Loudoun County, Virginia. They took a child that I'm not allowed to say rape. Apparently, that's a whole nother Twitch drama. That's hilarious. Forcibly sodomized his ex-girlfriend.
Can you say ape with an R?
You can say that, but in specific.
Can you say pair with the letters mixed around? Does that work?
Can you say therapist, but just separate the word into two words? Yeah. But so in Loudoun County, Virginia, right? I think we all know the story. Young man was wearing a skirt. Maybe they were trans. We don't really know because minor, so we don't have all the details. But goes into the girls' bathroom, sexually assaults and forcibly sodomizes both in more than one hole, we'll say, his ex-girlfriend. They sweep it under the rug, move him to another school, do a quiet investigation. Supposedly they're watching, shut the parent up, right? And then he does it again. He sexually assaults a second girl in the second school. The father goes to a parent-teacher conference, loses his shit because his daughter has been raped, I'll say it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're not actively doing anything to stop it, and it's happening to other people's children. This man gets dragged out, arrested. Everything's fine there, but it's one of the 14 cases cited by the teachers unions and the school board administrators when they wrote a letter to Merrick Garland about why these parents need to be put on FBI terrorist watch lists of their own designation. And Merrick Garland responded by putting these parents that are problematic on watch lists by the FBI. Now, what happened in response to that was known in Virginia, because I'm here in Virginia, the Mama Bear movement. What you did is you pissed off white suburban women. And if you want to lose an election, the one people you don't want to piss off are white suburban women, because they are the group of people in every election that is easy to swing one way or the other. They will vote Republican or Democrat, right? Like they're like totally not loyal to fucking party. And once you started fucking with their kids, they were like, you people have got to go. And Loudoun County still was Democrat. But you got to understand, it went from like 92% Democrat to like 54% Democrat. It was one of the biggest switches in a county that I've ever seen in political history. And so I think you're right in that they're going too far. That's example one, but respond as you will.
Oh, no. I mean, you see it throughout virtually every single thing that the progressive left has pushed, right? Mm-hmm. They've gone too far in every aspect of it. And you're seeing it now when we've got supply chain issues, right? Like the climate issue, everybody expected the pivot to the climate change issue, right? And that was like predicted. We all saw it coming. We go from COVID. Right. What's the next big thing? Climate change. Now, the Ukraine war obviously got in the middle, but people now, I saw a recent poll, 90% of the population, except for 10 dipshits somewhere, believe that the supply chain issues, the inflation issues are all government caused. They don't believe that it's Putin's price tax, right? Right. Again, example.
For reference, 14% of the U.S. population are young Earth creationists and believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old. So less people believe, okay, that the inflation is caused by the Ukraine war and Russia sanctions, than believe the Earth is only 6,000 years old and humans rode dinosaurs.
That is an excellent point. I love it. I know. I like that. That's a very good way to put it in perspective. But yeah, across the board, man, you're seeing that they push too far on every single issue. I've never seen, again, from a messaging perspective, right, doing public relations for a living, the entire concept of public relations is not so much to hit people in the face with a topic or a concept. You can't win that way because people's natural inclination when they're presented with something full bore, without any nuance, without any subtlety, without any counterpoints to it, is to outright reject it. It's like a gut instinct we all have. It's called the rejection theory, or
unless of course a growing percentage of the population are ideologically possessed by Marxian and neo-Marxist philosophy.
Well, even then though, but here's the thing: some of them are. Right? But you're seeing, and I'm seeing this in the younger generation that's coming through, a lot of even the people that you'd think would be so brainwashed now by Marxian theory coming through with the teachers unions all lockstep, teaching CRT, teaching cancel culture as it is, trying to stay on this one ideological path. You're seeing people naturally rebel. Now, whether or not that is simply that young people want to rebel against whatever the common culture is, right, which is a good thing for us, because progressive culture has been so dominant for the past 20 years that every young person coming up sees this and they go, even if they don't think about it, which probably most don't, they go, fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that, because that's the fucking common culture, which is a great thing for where we're coming from. But beyond that, when people are presented with this, again, this one shift point of view, right? We're saying we're going to sell this point. We're not going to give you any alternatives. We're not going to have any debate on it. We're not going to have any nuance to it. They will immediately reject it. And that's where these people have fucked up so badly across the board. I mean, on the climate perspective, there is no counterpoints allowed. There is no discussion allowed on whether or not America is racist. No discussion is allowed. And younger generation, through to just people that are in their 30s, they see the way in which is being presented. They go, this is horseshit. There's a reason Donald Trump doubled his votes among the black population. Right. It's not just economics.
Except for Atlanta, Georgia, and Detroit, Michigan, and the most populous city in Arizona, the most populous city in Wisconsin. Just except in those specific places that had votes come in the hundreds of thousands late at night when no one was looking.
Yeah, Continue. Yeah, that was. I'm glad. So we can talk about that real quick, but
you gotta be careful on that one though. on Twitch.
I know.
For the record,
I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but I will say, I think that shenanigans occurred.
Yeah, right.
I will say
Well,
that.
so this leads
facto.
me the younger generation thing. It kind of touches on the second point, right? Which is that I think what we are seeing in response to this is the conservatives have no understanding of the philosophy, and that's what terrifies me, right? Is that the conservative? I'm worried that there would be a reaction from the right. You're starting to see it in Texas, for example, where the party platform says that homosexuality is abnormal lifestyle, and it says that
that was fucked.
And says that we can't give hormone replacement therapy to anyone under the age of 21. And it's like, okay, well then what is your philosophy of an individual? What is your philosophy of who has personhood? If an 18-year-old is the age of adult, well then why are they not able to have medical freedom for whatever it is that they choose? Either an adult is 21 or they're 18. What are you doing?
Well, did we ever really pretend that the Republican Party had any inclinations to legitimate individual freedoms?
Paleolibs did. Paleolibs do all the time.
But do you consider them a legitimate part of the Republican Party? Because I don't.
No, I don't. But what I was going to say is this: what we're seeing also, coupled with this kind of right-wing tradcon swing, is also populism. And populism.
What is tradcon? You used that phrase twice. I don't know what the hell that tradcon means.
Like traditional conservative, like return. Like,
oh, okay.
Your foot in the kitchen.
Jesus Christ.
Well, All right.
What is this? This is a new phrase people are inventing? Just say conservatives. That
Sorry,
means conservatives. You're adding unnecessary verbiage.
You know what? That's fair. Listen, I'm in a wing of leftists. I'm in a den of hardcore left wingers. I don't know how I haven't been banned
and you're
already.
a white cisgender male.
But what I'm saying is this: is I've also seen a lot of Republicans and a lot of talking heads. Because of the populism, I think libertarian philosophy is eking its way into these people's minds. And the biggest thing that I've seen is the change in language that has occurred in, let's say, the last 5 years. You had your conservatives used to say, well, the Constitution says this and, the government can't do that. And now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seems, I hear them use words like the state over and over again. Like the Ben Shapiro even, or the Steven Crowders. Like, you're starting to see people use our language, and that to me is a white pill, because I think there is a pipeline between the populist movement that this entire system is fucked, and that these rhinos have not been taking care of us, to libertarian philosophy that is based in the things that they think that they admire, such as the modern movement or enlightenment philosophy and things like that. And so I think that is kind of like a second white pill for me, is that I'm starting to see the right use our language.
I agree, but let me ask you guys a question here. We've seen, a huge victory today in the Supreme Court, right?
And a huge failure today in the Supreme Court.
Well, huge failure on the policing aspect of not being able to sue federal police. Huge failure. Huge victory, though, in the Supreme Court for concealed carry.
Yes.
And of course, I don't know. Libertarians, we don't have to get into this topic specifically, or you can if you want, but Roe v. Wade, wherever you fall on that, I don't know if libertarians are happy or sad, but conservatives are very happy about the Roe v. Wade.
I'm an evictionist. There you go. There's my answer. I'm an evictionist.
Okay, yeah, good Walter Block. I'm fine with the evictionist aspect as well. I fall somewhere briefly in between, where I think that you should not be able to abort at any point in time. I do think that there's got to be a certain cutoff. Eviction makes sense because it's a viable outside the womb argument. Brain activity for me. But anyway, regardless, the question is, we are seeing and this falls into I guess a little bit of the Fabian theory of libertarianism, of trying to get people into positions that are open, but also in impacting races by trying to use libertarian vote sways to adjust it in one way.
New Hampshire.
That's another thing I'll throw out there. Right.
New Hampshire. It's fully Republican, but if you look at all of the bills that they passed, and I'll shut up quickly, all of the recent bills that they pass, they look as, I've never seen anything more paleo-libertarian in my entire life.
I
and
agree.
yet they don't have a single libertarian there, but it's the power of the Free State Project and libertarians.
Right.
The Republican Party knows if they're not libertarian, at least
off.
somewhat, that they're going to lose their fucking elections.
Don't piss them off.
Yeah.
But here's the question. Sorry, I took a long way to get to this question. Do you think now, that the GOP, that Republicans, that the conservative movement is going to get so full of themselves after these recent rulings, after the successes that they're seeing, after the polling results come out that Biden's down 10%, after seeing this old senile dipshit fall off his fucking bike.
Yeah.
Are we going to lose these people now because they are going to be too full of what's happened and stop listening? Because I think that now, I was excited. Now I'm actually concerned. I think it's a legitimate question, and I'm worried.
Well, first, we need to contend with Biden falling off the bike. Clearly, this was part of the cloning operations run by Queen Elizabeth out of England. We know she died about 2 years ago. Her corpse has been in hiding. So, I think we're just finally seeing the cloning program slow down. But more seriously, I think people are pissed right now. And if the Republicans win and nothing happens, which on my pot-addled memory, I'm pretty sure every time they get power, nothing happens.
Right.
And
it keeps going up.
Yeah, and the power of the state keeps going up, the debt keeps going up, and they're just like, hey, we're holding the line for 2 more years, guys. Just, help us win the next midterm. And then it's like, well, you didn't do anything, and they're going to try to do something, so we're going to move over there. So I think with like the Mises Caucus winning, and like Scott was saying, with the more and more anti-state rhetoric, maybe more people are going to get involved, and they'll look outside the Republican Party, especially if they just decide to whiff like they always do.
That's my problem. That's what I'm saying, though, is that I'm honestly worried that too many victories for the GOP have come too quickly, that it's going to fuck us, because people are going to go, these Republicans
I disagree.
are really doing something over here.
I disagree.
Like, oh, well, fuck libertarians.
I had an AP government teacher back when I was a socialist in high school and everything, right? And my AP governor was known as the shadow speaker. New York Times even did a thing about him. He was actually someone that worked. In Virginia politics and kind of like worked behind the scenes. And he had a passion for education, so he just taught government to kids. And the first day of class, he pulled out his wallet and he slammed it onto someone's desk and said, "That's the golden fucking rule of politics." He said, people that are interested in politics, they get involved in these culture wars. They get involved in these wedge issues. They get involved in all of these things. And they, especially with the internet, they think everyone else is with them in this culture war. But at the end of the day, a majority of people that go to vote, they vote with their wallet. They vote based off of who they think is financially successful. And I think that they will vote Republican and not give a fuck about the culture war, ultimately, and not give a fuck about any of this stuff that we have. They don't give a fuck about CRT. They don't give a fuck about critical theory or critical pedagogy. They don't give a fuck about drag queen story hour. They give a fuck about how high are their taxes and what does inflation look like.
See, that's where I don't think you're right. I think that I think there's going to be 2 issues that in this next election cycle. But you hit on it first. You're in Loudoun County, man. You saw the power of going after kids. Like in the CIA, in the mafia, what are the 2 rules? No women, no children, right?
Well, that's clearly not a rule for the CIA.
Oh, the CIA. Well, yeah, no, definitely not. I guess in the movies, the CIA.
Right.
Remember, no Russian.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? The mafia has got more. The mafia actually has better standards for killing people than the CIA.
Yeah, well, I mean, the mafia will break your legs if you don't pay your debt, but they'll let you pay off your debt, right? The government will just put you in prison, and then you can't pay off your debt.
You can't pay it off anything. Yeah, make a billion license plates. Every license plate, if I was ever in prison, though, every license plate would just say cock, and that would be it. I'd be like, put me in solitary. But no women, no children, right? That's the law. They don't kill kids, don't kill women. And we have seen that the violation of that by the Democrats, by the progressives here, going after the kids with CRT, going after the kids with gender theory, has driven parents to the point where they're saying, even Democrats, like I live in LA, I live in the biggest progressive, shithole in America.
Literally now, literally.
Oh, there's
that's San Fran.
A homeless, well, San Fran's bad, but in LA, a homeless person dumped a bucket of shit on a woman in her car.
I remember that story. That was amazing.
Ooh, I mean, I'm sure she was horrified. I would have killed that person, and I hope I would have gotten off scot-free. But point being, even
poop
here,
panic defense. Instead of the trans panic defense.
The great poop panic of 2022. No, even here in LA though, like my wife works in furniture design, like all these, ultra progressives. I work with all these ultra progressives, in my clients. People are quietly at dinners. They're not proclaiming it on social media, but you get them one-on-one and they're like, this shit is fucked. No more. I don't want my kids to be politicized. I don't want them to have people telling them what gender they are. And more than anything, this is where they really fucked up. More than anything, if my kid tells you something as a teacher, if my kid tells you they want to be a boy and they're a girl, and you don't tell me, fuck you.
Oh yeah.
And
that
look, is we've crossing the Rubicon, and that's what's happening, man. People
we've gone harder on
these people
that
because of that.
We've gone harder on that than anybody, I think, in the Twitch space. Like, I mean, we interviewed, D-Trans male and fucking Buck Angel. We've been going hard on
Buck
that.
was on the show. Yeah.
Buck's a joy. Buck is a joy. You should talk to him at some point if you get an opportunity, because he'll talk to anybody. He really will. Like, he's trying hard to get
sell
that
his
message
exclusivity.
out. I'm just being honest. He will, because he's really passionate about getting the message out there, and he's a joy. But Policy Wonker from chat brings up a really good point, and I think it's maybe it goes a little bit too far, but I do agree with him to a certain extent.
Where is the fucking chat? I was trying to find it.
If you got to be on the stream, it's not in the Discord.
Oh, all right. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Twitch.tv/Fabian Liberty. Once you realize the state is a criminal enterprise, it's hard to go back. Let the GOP have their wins. Voters will remember the state's crimes. I don't know that I think most voters will think of them as the Democrats' crimes. But I do agree that a significant portion of people will remember the Republicans that went along with this, right? And no amount of saber rattling with Ukraine-Russia situation, no matter of we got to stop the CRT, will undo the man or the woman that lost their job due to COVID lockdowns. That is something that is forever burned in their mind. And I do think that this presents a unique opportunity for libertarianism. I wish deeply that Mises Caucus had power before the Reno reset during this, because the voice of the LP was a silent voice during these lockdowns. But even still, I think that there is something to be said about the fact that it's hard to unremember seeing the crimes of the state.
Yeah, well, okay, so that brings up an interesting question, though. And I agree. I think you made a very good point, by the way, in saying that they're going to remember it as the crimes of the Democrats. That's what they will do. Number two, the crimes of the state. And this is why I think it's so important that I hope Dave Smith does run for president. Because not that he's going to win, and I know he wants somebody else to do it, and I don't blame him. I'd want somebody else to do it. But
right.
The point being, somebody has to go out there and get in the American public space and be able to say proudly and loudly that these are crimes of the state, that this is a state issue, that these crimes would not have been possible without the state apparatus and the power that we've given them. And the problem that we have with the state and their basically linking hand in hand with the mainstream media and with the censorship and with the new disinformation ministry that's still operating is that we do risk running it down the memory hole. And these people we might remember it, but the narrative, as we know, history is written by the victors, and guess who always wins? State. The state continues to win. So we have to remember that we are arguing something that may not be common knowledge or might be altered to the point where people don't see it that way anymore, which is why, to your point, we have to make this opportunity coming out of the biggest crisis we've ever seen in our lifetime, right? Of 2 years of government-enforced lockdowns, government-enforced bankruptcies, government-enforced child abuse, and now going into a possible inflationary depression. We have to capitalize on this now because we can't let it go down the memory hole. That's the challenge that we're faced with.
I mean, I'm doing my best. We're doing our best here in Twitch.
As are we all.
We all are. Yeah.
Right? I mean, but that's the question: is how do we get it into the mainstream? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for having Dave Smith run is if we can get him on the debate stage.
Yes. Well, and
they'll change the rules. He'll never get on the debate stage.
There's no they right now. This is, again, I'm white pilled on this. There's no they. The Republicans, after the last debates, and all that shit that I guess it's CNN and all that, they pulled out of the national, what the fuck they call it, the National Committee on Debates, whatever the fuck it was.
Right.
The GOP and Democrat co-organized debate committee. Right. They pulled out. There is no recognized debate committee anymore.
Well, once it occurs,
continues, that's the best fucking possible thing for us, because then you've got a major personality that actually get his fucking ass in there.
Well, actually, he's good friends with Joe Rogan.
That's
too.
what I was just.
And I know there was the interest to have Biden versus Trump on Joe Rogan. Like, there's no way Dave Smith couldn't get involved somehow that way.
Or even still, if it's just Dave Smith, right? The numbers that Dave Smith will pull on Joe Rogan will be probably similar, if not more, than the presidential debates.
Agreed, right? Especially if he is. I mean, in truth, it's one of those things where it's a win-win. If he's included, great. Go out there, smack some shit. If he's excluded, even better. Because now it's a scandal. Now even more people are going to tune in to see this man that they would not allow to speak, that is prominently known on the biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah, either action really is legitimizing for us.
Yeah. No, I agree. The thing that I don't know, what do you think the LP's priorities should be? Because I think the LP's priority in terms of the debates and getting the message out there is good, but I think it's high time we capitalize on this Mises Caucus takeover and this increased numbers and this populist movement to start winning some small local elections, like especially in the executive. I think the people that are, I think there are a lot of people, especially older people, right, that do know who their local representatives are, at the very least, that do vote, that small portion. Because you got to think, right, Libertarian Party is what, somewhere between 1% and 6% of the population like knows who we are and would support us, right? And so I think what we need is some small victories. It's like we've gotten us seated at the table long enough, I think, where we've really got to, like, we need treasurer in local cities and things like that. We need some victories where we can show some numbers, because the way it sits right now is, well, it's a joke because they can't even get elected anywhere, number one. But number two, we don't, like, when I talk about anarcho-capitalism, for example, people will go, well, name one place where your ideas have been tried. And all I can do is say Republic of Kospaya, Chiron, Mexico, the Icelandic Tane system, the Iga Sukukuiki, but all of these things are proto-anarchist or like, anarcho-mutualism, or they're not anarcho-capitalism. And so I lose, but I wonder if libertarians have some small seats. Do they win that argument?
Lose. Okay, so two things. I don't give a fuck about small elections and libertarians getting into small offices. Okay. I support the episode on Fabian libertarianism was essentially taking advantage of open positions and working our way in there to take over these like least resistance to get in there, right? Fabian theory. But I honestly don't think it wins a shit to have these positions where you take over. For me, I'd much rather see us make a broader cultural push to change the messaging and inspire people in a religious fervor. Sell a message of hope. And that's, again, with Mean Age Daydream, the pivot I've made on that show is from bitching about current events, effectively.
And Chad, he would know. This is the PR guy for libertarianism. Yeah, in case you're curious, he would know. So I'm listening.
Thank you. Yes.
Eyes wide open, ears forward.
Thank you. So the idea is, what we have not been doing effectively is selling people on a message of hope, of inspiration, of promise, of what is going to be there. What is the shining city on the hill? We have failed across the board on that. All we do, and I got to talk to Angela about this messaging, is we have to have messaging that is inspirational, not just negativity, not just whining, not just saying we were right about that. We can be right all day. You need to sell people on what's next that we can promise them. And as libertarians, we don't like to promise shit. We don't like to, because, we don't like to write checks our asses can't cash. But that's what we have to do. You have to do it from a perspective of selling. Now, that being said, the other thing too is, like, when we talk about getting people in office and like you said, the argument about your ideas, show me where your ideas have worked, right? And we struggle to say, okay, I can't tell you. I think that's a great opportunity, because the best arguments I've had, where I've won arguments with my progressive people here in LA, where they don't want to hear shit I have to say, my best argument to them has been, Tell me what idea that your political party has supported has fucking worked. None of them have worked. None of them. Especially the most progressive policies have failed across the board. Poverty, homelessness, education, racial issues, you name it, failed across the board. My primary argument is try something different. Ideas might not have worked, but you know what? My ideas haven't been tried. Does that mean they're bad ideas? Does that mean they're bad ideas? No, it doesn't mean they're bad. It means they're great ideas argument that no one will have the balls to try.
You make a compelling argument there. So I wonder too.
Damn, you're gonna have to be Dave Smith's press secretary.
Right. I mean, like that's
Michael Malice has that on lockdown. I'll be a gray eminence. I'll whisper in his ear.
I'm pretty sure Malice will cost too much money.
Also,
he probably will.
Also, Malice
you know the gays and their
people.
expensive lifestyles.
Failed podcaster Michael Malice will cost too much.
Michael Malice, who has to, he insists his cocaine doesn't have fentanyl in it. Oh, okay, Your Majesty.
Only it's the finest of the pink bubblegum ice creams.
Yeah.
So my question here.
Sorry. It's just the pink bubblegum is so disgusting.
Oh no, I'm right there with you.
I'm with you too, actually. But I mean, so my question is do you think I do a disservice in some ways to the libertarian movement by going really, really hard? Don't say yes already, you asshole. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. No, but
you set me up so easily there. What do you expect to happen?
He's the funny guy of the Lions of Liberty. Come on, you got to expect some zingers from time to time.
I know. I expect it. I'm just messing with you. But my question is like when we go, because I often go into a land that, how do I explain this? I'm really, really obsessed right now, maybe too much so, with the philosophy that has poisoned America. Because we used to be a nation that was based upon liberal Enlightenment philosophy. Maybe not anarchist, right? But of incredibly limited government, minarchism, of the idea that the state was bad, and that the idea that that we needed individual liberty and freedom, and how do we enshrine and protect that to the best of our capacity, right? That was the experiment of America, right? That's why the Articles of Confederation failed, and we brought in republicanism as a means of trying to enshrine rights as much as we could. And now what we have is a philosophy from the Frankfurt School of Austria that is Marcusian, of the worship of the state, that the state has the right to change the hearts and minds of people for the better, and of a philosophy of neo-Marxian philosophy that is, some group holds the superposition, be it heteronormativity or capital, bourgeoisie, or, the whites, and that all of these things and that this philosophy has poisoned us so deeply. And when I point it out, it's so insane to me because I'll be on a debate panel, I'm on Hippy Dippy all the time, for example, which is a really big debate panel on Twitch. There was a guy, Ashton, and I'm watching him do historical and material analysis. I'm watching him do literally everything out of Stefanik and Delgado's critical race theory in his argumentation things. And I pointed out, and everyone goes, discount James Lindsay here. What is this craziness and everything? And so I wonder, does that blackpilling and that deep attack at the philosophy to try and wake people up to what has poisoned our government, what has corrupted our systems, does that maybe hurt our ability to move forward in against that messaging of hope that you talk about?
I think that, so what you were talking about, two things. So I want to go back just to point out that, we talked about how to protect liberty and how to protect all these things, and how we, republicanism came in, the Articles of Confederation. How'd that work out? How'd that work out for us?
Not too good.
So
Virginia and Maryland almost went to war.
Right. Have no faith in government, have no faith in bills and laws. We all reference, obviously the Constitution will reference the Bill of Rights, and it's fun to do that. And they had the best of intentions, but how'd that work out? So it all comes back to culture. It comes back to influence. It comes back to real life impact on people's lives. So when you talk about, having these arguments of people, these guys saying, oh, you're discount James Lindsay. Again, I think you could go back. Sometimes the best way to argument against these concepts is to, as Rand Paul does, sometimes take them to the logical conclusion. Or, as I was just saying previously, this guy's arguing, okay, you're discount James Lindsay and espousing critical race theory and all this other shit. Okay, let's buy into it. Let's talk through exactly where you want to go, and let's see what the logical conclusion to that is. Because it's not anywhere pretty. Mm-hmm. And I think that people, as you talked about, I'm white pilled on this because people are seeing that. They're seeing the logical conclusion to these movements within academia, these movements within culture
Yeah,
that have
it's no
led
longer
us to a
theoretical.
point.
It like
It's not
now
theoretical.
now they're
Exactly.
seeing the damage, the early
They're
warning
seeing-
signs, the early damage that is being done.
You're seeing Black Lives Matter riots where the cops are standing down. You're seeing 4 blocks of Seattle being taken over by activists armed with machine guns from quote unquote peaceable activists for the racial movement. And people are getting shot in there every night. You're seeing the effects of this. As you said, it's no longer theory, it's practice. And you're seeing it destroy society, and people are reacting to that. So if anybody argues and says, look at this, I'm going to argue for critical race theory. I'm going to discount your opinion by calling you.
That's the problem. They don't. That's what I mean, is that all of these leftist indoctrinated individuals, I put them in 4 categories. At the top, you have the Marxians, the World Economic Forum type, right? They want the giant socialist state. You'll own nothing. You'll be happy, so that the rich, wealthy can like kind of lord over us. Then you have the intelligentsia. They're like hardcore Marxists. But then under them, you have the activists and the talking heads, and they know this theory, kinda, right? They embody the theory, but they don't really most of them don't even understand the philosophy. And so when you debate with these people, right, they deny the existence that they're actually embodying these things. And when you tell them, no, I know this shit better than you, and I'm watching how you're doing it. And then you have at the bottom of the pyramid, you have the kind of the woke progressive, 30, maybe 25% of the population that takes their kids to a drag show because, everything is love. And like, how do you get that? Like those people, they can't see it.
Here's my answer to you.
I know I'm going off the fucking rails. I'm sorry.
You're not. No, I'm enjoying this. I mean, actually, I got to go in 10 minutes. I promised my wife.
Yeah.
But no, I'm great. By the way, I'm greatly enjoying this. Anytime you guys want to have me on, I'm really having fun. I'll come on in whatever you want.
Well, open door, dude. Whenever you want to.
Awesome. I'll just come in and crash.
I'm by us.
Fine by us.
So I think you're making a fatal mistake in thinking that these people you're debating with matter at all. Because they don't. They don't. Period. They don't matter. These people are being overtaken. You're seeing the people that matter. And this is why my message of hope is what I'm saying is going to resonate. These intelligentsia, again, like you're saying, the World Economic Forum fuckers, the Marxians, the intelligentsia, the wokesters, these are a tiny portion of the population, an unbelievably infinitesimal portion. Now, they may wield influence, quote unquote influence, but they have fucked up. And we have to reach everybody else that's not bought in, because you're not going to win an argument with these people because they don't consider your point valid. You can make any point, and it's not valid to them. You don't matter to them. So stop thinking that they should matter to you, because they don't. And you know who else they don't really matter to? The very broad population we're trying to reach. They don't matter to them. They don't. They see fucking lizard person Hillary Clinton out there. There's a reason she didn't get elected. They see Kamala Harris, and they hate her. They see these fucking people for what they are. We have to concentrate not on winning arguments, but on winning people's emotions, winning people's hearts, winning people's aspirations, as this is going to be better, period. And the beauty is we haven't tried it. We haven't tried it. This is going to be a better life for you, for your kids. We're not going to rob you. We're not going to kill you. We're not going to steal you. We're not going to send you off to fucking wars. We're not going to tell you can't drive your car. We're not going to try to make your currency devalued. This shit is an opportunity that we've never seen before. And trying to debate these people is a waste of time. You could do it to get more subs for the channel. That's the only point you should have in it. And the people that are going to sub to your channel, you don't have to win the debate. All you have to do is make
that's 100%
points.
true. Well, I mean, you go on these platforms.
That's right.
You go on these points to fight them, not to win them over, but to win the audience on these places.
Exactly.
Right, and for sure.
Have you ever seen Mr. Rogers' 69 congressional testimony trying to keep like PBS funded?
No, I thought that was going to go a different way when you were like, Mr. Rogers 69. I was like, hey,
God, Rule 34.
Where
all
are
right.
we going here?
Normally I could make that work, but no, like there was a great breakdown. Yeah, Scott showed it to me. And he goes through like a complete list of arguments to like make the emotional appeal, and then utilize that to worm into your mind, and then make a rational appeal, and swung over. Who was Scott?
I
Knows the story.
can't remember the senator, but basically they were trying to cut PBS's funding from 20 million to 10. and he gives this speech where he talks about
imagine what a wonderful era
right, yeah, back in '69.
You had a laughter, 20 million and 10, have 40 million.
Right. So after this speech, he actually went from trying to cut it in half to adding 2 million, so it became 22 million. But yeah, no, it was I'll send you the video. I'll DM the video. It's Powers of Persuasion. It's a guy that he does, or not Powers of Persuasion. It's another guy. He does a video like every 3 months, just randomly, and they're always amazing. But yeah, so it's
Ryan Chapman video.
No, it's not Ryan Chapman, not at all. But yeah, no, he talks about Energeia and the powers of rhetoric and things like that. And I think libertarians, we get called autists all the time, right? Because I mean,
for good reason.
Well, I mean, how do you get to libertarianism? Well, the only way you get to libertarianism is some tragic shit happens in your life and you see the state for what it is, right? Or you're an edgy internet teen boy, likely autistic already, and you find something that everyone says is bad, and then you go, wow, this is actually cool. Or 3, you study economic theory and you realize that, Keynesian and modern monetary economics are bullshit, and you fall in love with neoclassical or Austrian economic theory.
Or you have a Ron Paul party, or a Dave Smith party.
Maybe, but as it stands, like, this is pretty much every libertarian, right? And I think, so we tend to be really data and logic focused, right? And one of the things we deeply miss in our argumentation is the other aspects of rhetoric, which is, the pathos and the ethos, gaining credibility, gaining respect, and telling powerful stories and narratives.
Yes.
And capturing emotions and Energeia, right? The idea of making someone feel like they're a part of a story, right? And we miss that. And so that's why I talk about this video often, because it is the quintessential perfect version of someone either naturally or intentionally, which is Mr. Rogers, exemplifying all 3 of those in perfect balance. And it doesn't matter who you are, you watch this speech and you'll be sitting there like holding back tears, like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. PBS needs more stolen government money. Like, it's just like, you'll just be convinced, right? Because of the beauty of that story.
I DM'd it to you, by the way. I found the video he was talking about.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, I got it. So on that point, so I was up at the Austrian Economics Conference, and I did a podcast and a talk about that exact topic. And it was influencing culture through the arts, but through creativity, and how we have a dearth of people in the movement. And whether that's because libertarianism is based, like I said, logic, reason, economics, it's very hardcore logic-based thinking, but it's not creative thinking. We're getting more people in the industry. I mean, you guys obviously, you're likable, creative. You can see you're thinking. We need more people that are more creative, that can think outside the box of simply data and logic and A plus B equals C. We have to have people that can tell the story. We have to have people that can tell, not in your face, as I said, not just you're right. We're right about this. You're wrong about this. Here's the data to back it up. But as you said, inspirational, subtle. You have to have ways to reach people that are not simply smashing them in the face, and the creativity comes into mind there. And we have an opportunity now where, the progressives had a lockdown on this for decades, but now the Republicans, as we're seeing with Daily Wire, are getting more creative. The evolution of conservative thinking has reached a point where conservatives are funnier than progressives now. And that was never the case. Libertarians have to capitalize on this and get creative and find ways to tell stories creatively. Otherwise, we will go to the wayside. And I think we have the opportunity there with a comedian. Again, if Dave runs, he's a fucking comedian, man. We have to have people.
He's a comedian until you say his trigger word. All right, his trigger word is Yemen. If you bring up Yemen, he no longer is a comedian, and now he is worse than any woke scold Twitterati that you've ever seen, and he will start screaming at you, and it's amazing and based.
What's funny is hanging out with Dave, right? I've hung out with Dave only a couple times. Hopefully I'll hang out with him more in Freedom Fest, but
cool. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself.
Well, you just casually throw out these big names.
Hang out with Dave. Me and my boy.
I'm not trying to make it that way. I'm trying to say that hanging out with him, it's funny because you think he'd be like, jokey. He's always on Dave Smith, even when you're just hanging out with him. Like, Dave, take a chill. Let's just fucking talk about, I don't know, tits. But But you need to have that's why I joked when I started meeting James. I was like, I'm gonna start the only libertarian comedy podcast because Dave never does a comedy on his podcast. So
You gotta go Legion of Skanks for that.
yeah, exactly, which is
That's
very
true.
funny. And
That's
yeah,
true.
and
Yeah,
Robbie
Just give him-
the Fire is very funny. You know,
Robbie
Robbie
brings in the comedy, even though
right. Yeah,
sorry, Robbie the Fire Bernstein. I doubt you're watching this, but if you are, Dave's smuttier. And I'm sorry, but in part of the problem when you're there, you're the only one doing comedy because Dave is so
literally.
serious. He's so mad
all
usually.
the time. I know that's all the time. Dave's so mad, but like again, you're talking to him in person, and he's just like just hammering points. I'm like, Dave, I know.
I'm okay with it.
Anyway.
I like, you know what'll end up happening if there's a party and we get to meet that, you two can go off and tell jokes because Dave and I will be in the corner like, and I know because I am always like that too. I try. I mean, I inject comedy. I hope my audience finds some comedy occasional. But
I'm just gonna grief him for watching Jay pass out from a big dab.
Oh, that was fucking nuts, dude. I saw that video. That was crazy. I don't listen to every
saw
Legion of
that shit
Skanks,
too,
but I was listening to that one. I was like, what the fuck? You just hear him thunk down on the table.
well, no, he watches them. He doesn't listen on.
Oh, you're like live watch him. So I saw the clip on Twitter. Yeah, I just listened to it.
Oh yeah, it was great.
That's so funny, man.
Before-
Guys, I gotta go.
Yeah, I was just about to say you got to go. Please plug your stuff, and it's an open door here. Unless obviously I'm on a debate panel, then no.
I will gladly join you. This has been a lot of fun, and I know you guys do it like multiple days. Do you do it multiple days of the week usually, or is it just kind of one?
Every Monday, every Tuesday, every Thursday, and I have my kids every other weekend. So on those weekends we don't do it, but on weekends that I do have my kids, every Friday, every Saturday, every Sunday, from 7 p.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning EST.
Awesome. Yeah,
we gave up. We were like, look, we are fighting an uphill battle. We're fighting an uphill battle because we're in a place where the market share of libertarians is essentially zero. We've had to build an audience from conservatives and from other disaffected people and bring people from outside into Twitch. And so, people that are just as well known as us have sometimes 10 times the viewership. And so we were like, there's only one way to do this. And the only way to do this is to put 60 hours a week of our life into this. And we're broke and we're poor, but we are fucking fighting and we're not going anywhere.
Awesome. I love it. Well, God bless you guys. I will, I'll join you regularly. You'll see me every couple of weeks. I've had a blast. It's really, it's fun to meet people like you actually have just a natural rapport with, and I think we do. So I'll gladly hop on. You guys are doing awesome work. At Brian McWilliams on Twitter. At Lions of Liberty is our Twitter feed. Lions of Liberty Network, you get all three of our shows, which Monday is Mark Claire's show. Wednesday is mine, Mean Age Daydream. Thursday is Odie, John Odermatt with Finding Freedom. And otherwise, you can subscribe. If you don't like all three of the shows, some people don't because of, Mark's kind of gone anti-Mises caucus in some ways, but he still loves it. But if you don't want to hear the other two and just want to hear my show,
fucking
you can also
Prags.
subscribe to. I know, Mean Age
fucking
Daydream.
Lolbert Prags.
I know, but also don't forget to listen to the Boring Podcast, BOHRING, our comedy pod, and that's
a fucking mouthful. Just find him on Twitter, and then you can find all of his shit.
Yeah, you can find all this shit. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, this has been a blast. Hugs and kisses. You guys are awesome. Keep it up.
Oh, I don't want the COVIDs.
I will be back. I did have COVID. I caught COVID in fucking Reno, man. Everybody got COVID in Reno.
I have not caught it. I'm unvaccinated and have not caught COVID. My children have had it twice. They had they had Delta variant and Omicron, and still somehow never caught it.
For not hugging or kissing your children, right here.
I do it all the time.
All right, guys. Peace. Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you.
It's been awesome. Thank you, Fabian Liberty. I'll see you soon.
You just watched a clip from our Twitch channel, Fabian Liberty. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe here on YouTube, or go ahead and give us a follow on twitch.tv/Fabian Liberty.